What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to do a super simple cucumber trellis using just a few things from T-posts, some trellis netting, and some C-clips. Let's go. All right, so the first thing we did, we got some T-posts and we hammered them down about 1 foot in the ground. Super important you have whatever you use for your supports really should be nice and sturdy so it holds all this foliage as well as all that fruit once it forms. Now, we have them spaced out 5 feet apart. This is a 6 foot long bed and you don't want them spaced too far apart. Otherwise, once the weight starts forming on the trellis, it's gonna really cause some pulling and sagging and you don't want these to bend in and bow. You want a nice rigid trellis. So because this is a 6 foot long bed, I just took about 6 inches off either side, brought the supports in there. And because we don't have anything planted on those end caps anyways, we're gonna be totally fine. 5 feet is about the furthest out you want to be. 3 to 5 feet is ideal because it's going to give you that adequate support, but you don't need to overbuild something like this. Ultimately, the weight is going to hang on the trellis and it's going to support the weight as long as you have it nice and taut, which we're going to talk about that later on. You want to really secure these to the posts so that there's no sagging in the center. Otherwise, they're not really going to be supported by much. They're going to be hanging on the ground. So what we're going to be using for our trellis here is just this really inexpensive nylon trellis netting. Really inexpensive. You can go with just about anything though. If you go with something like concrete reinforcement or remesh, that works awesome. It's a little more rigid, a little more expensive, but it's a little more permanent as well. We're just gonna be making something kind of quick and dirty here to support our cucumbers up here. So we're gonna be using this stuff. And the thing I like about this though is the fact that there's almost no barrier to entry. I mean, if you're living in the city and you can't get yourself some concrete reinforcement, this stuff, it's pretty easy to unfurl here. And it's just got these nice grids that allows the good airflow, allows the plant to support itself. And because it's made from nylon, it is remarkably strong. So I don't have a problem with this. I use this quite frequently. The big thing is just getting it opened up and not tangled. All right, once you get your trellis all spread out and ready to rock, we're going to zip tie it to the trellis just to keep it supported. Because again, this is kind of a yearly thing. Now this nylon netting you can use for multiple years. In fact, I've used it for about 3 or 4 years before it starts to get so weathered from the sun and from kind of getting pulled and tangled and tossed around that you have to replace it. So 4 years is not too bad. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab it and we're gonna start from the top. I like to start from the top because it's the very tip top of the trellis. And then I'm just going to zip tie the top first and work my way down because inevitably you're going to have a little bit of slack at the bottom. That's fine. I'd rather have slack at the bottom than at the top. And so work from the top down. You will thank me later. Standing at the blank page before me, open up the dirty window. Let the sun illuminate the words that you could not find reaching. Why do I know every word to that song? That's gonna be stuck in my head all day now. All right, so because we're working with a 15-foot trellis on a 6 foot long raised bed here, I'm just gonna trim these ends up just so we don't have a bunch of excess hanging over. And that is gonna clean things up, make it nice and neat. So now that we have the trellis actually all finished up, what we're gonna do is we're going to now support the cucumbers on the trellis using C-clips. Now these are awesome because they work not only for tomatoes, but also for cucumbers. And how they work is they have just a hinge point, and this little hinge allows you to basically crimp. You can come over here and see this in real time here. You can crimp it and then pinch it, and it's fixed to this point on the trellis. That allows you to keep the plant growing in a nice orderly manner so it's not growing all over the place. And it will also start to climb as well, but the tendrils on cucumbers aren't quite the most functional at this point. They've kind of been bred out to be almost irrelevant. Cucumbers used to vine all over the place. They're wild versions. They used to vine all over the place. Nowadays, cucumbers are a little more of just a domesticated ground crop, if you will. But we like to grow them as vines because if you do, you get way more airflow, they stay healthier, more pollinators can access the flowers, and it makes harvesting a whole lot easier as well. Because if you let a cucumber go too long, the cucumber plant will stop producing. Quick little tip for you. All right, so now we've already got one started here. We're just gonna take each one of these. Do me a big favor and do this before they get this big. Do me just a huge favor. Don't let your plants get this big. Things just got really busy, life got in the way, and our plants got super large. It's gonna be a whole lot easier to trellis them when they're not so big. But all we're doing is we're just taking these and we are pulling them up. Nevertheless, it's still possible. It's just gotta be a little more delicate not to break things. But we're pulling these plants up here. And then here's the really important thing. So we want to pull them up, not too much to where they break, but we want to find a nice spot for us to attach underneath a leaf joint. If you come in close, you see the main vine. So you have the main vine here, and the main vine is the main growth leader. Then you have actually some cucumbers forming, and then this is a leaf joint here. This leaf node is actually a really good anchor point to anchor it to a trellis. And what you want to do is you want to, again, get that little crease in the C-clip, and you'll put that just below that anchor point. That's going to hold the weight of that plant as it starts to form, and it starts to form fruit as well. So then you can go up here and you can do the same. And what's awesome about this trellis is you can really trellis, and the C-clips combined with it, is it allows you to really trellis just about anywhere along the trellis, which is very, very handy. All right, and there we go. It is that simple to make yourself a really inexpensive, super fast cucumber trellis. Again, get your plants off the ground, get them some more airflow, help your fruits to ripen more uniformly. And also that does bring about another thing too. It also allows you to make pruning so much easier. We actually pruned out a bunch of extra growth we didn't need. It was adding to the overall volume of the bed, but was ultimately going to slow down things like fruiting and plant growth. So we end up pruning a whole lot easier as well, because once they're up on a trellis, it makes pruning them so much simpler, and you can really kind of see what you're doing rather than having them all flat on the ground where they can be a little bit more of a mess. So that makes pruning so much easier as well. But overall, super happy with how this turned out. Final thing I was going to mention is ultimately these are capped at about 5 feet right now. They're 6 foot tall trellises, or 6 foot tall fruiting strips. We have them down about 1 foot in the ground, but because they're only about 5 feet tall, inevitably the cucumbers are gonna grow up and they're gonna basically exceed this height. What's gonna happen? Well, ideally we could go to the moon, right? That's not super practical in this setting. We could go to the moon, right? We could go to the moon, right?
And the chances of that occurring are so literally astronomically small. It's very disturbing.
So what can you do? Let them flop over, and they're naturally gonna get taller and flop over, and they should be totally fine. All right, so there you guys go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully y'all learned something new. And if you did, make sure to hit the big green thumbs up. That'll help out a lot. Also, share this video with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it. And also, if it looks like it's snowing, it's because it's cottonwood season. So I know you're gonna be wondering what all the stuff floating around in the background is. That always happens this time of year. That's what that is. So as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider checking this one out. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you so much for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. Consider doing that. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or shine. And if you need any garden tools, supplies, or seeds, check out MIgardener.com. We got you covered. See you guys in the garden. Bye.